about my channel. There is something I've been thinking about for some period. It has been of much concern and been seriously disturbed about it, and I feel like sharing it with us. In the book of Genesis, chapter 26, the Bible says, reading from verse 1 through verse 5, that there was a famine in the land, as bad as the famine during the time of Abraham. And Isaac went down to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. God appeared to him and said, "Don't go down to Egypt. Stay where I tell you. Stay here in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. I'm giving you and your children on all this land, fulfilling the oath that I've sworn to your father Abraham. I will make your descendants as many as the stars in the sky, and give them all this land. All the nations of the earth will get a blessing for themselves through your descendant." And why? Because Abraham obeyed my summon and kept my charge, my command, my guidelines, and teaching. Now, this is just a passage from Genesis chapter 26, from verse 1 through verse 5. I just read the message version. And then, what happened according to that text is that there was famine. And naturally, when there are famine, economically, everything will be a bit, tough. And then people will be looking for way out to, really take care of the economic effect on both themselves and their family. So in this particular situation, when this famine period came, Isaac now made up his mind to move on to the land of Egypt in order to be able to at least move on to a place where the effect was not that much, and in order to be able to take care of his family. So because of famine, we all know the implications of famine on any nation. Wherever there is famine, the cost of inflation will be very, very high. Cost of living will also be very, very high. And it will affect practically every aspect and phase of human life. And so normal thing, like, in contemporary African nation, now because of the economic situation that most of our leaders are unable to find a clue to turning the economic around, you discover that a lot of individuals are now thinking of, what we call a Japa syndrome, traveling out of most of African nations, moving down to the European and Asian countries for better living and condition of living, and in order to also be able to take care of the family and their loved ones. And so when we liken that's to the experience of Isaac, and when the Lord now told Isaac, the Lord spoke with Isaac not to move. And then a response of Isaac to what the Lord said to him is this. I read from that same chapter, from verse 12. Verse 12 now says, Isaac planted crops in that land and took in a huge harvest. God blessed him. The man got richer and richer by the day until he was very wealthy. When we look at this passage, let's place it side by side the life of an average African believers or Christians looking for way out. One of the things that I've personally come to discover, which oftentimes I strongly not concur to, is the fact that when we look at African setting, and then you will agree with me that although most of our people are looking for the way out of the economic situation, but sometimes we made some individual to believe that after giving their life to Christ, sometimes that probably all that they need to do is just to pray. See, don't get me wrong, don't get it twisted. I'm a man of prayer by God's grace. I run prayer program, and it has been so wonderful, fantastic, unimaginable testimony. But I will not, on the basis of that and the testimony and what the Lord is doing through the life of people and to the people, and people attending, then now ask them to stop whatever they are doing. because that will not be in agreement with this biblical teaching here. Here, the Lord is setting a principle for us to come out of economic recession, to come out of inflation. Ideal thing to do is that the individual must have a work the individual is doing. You must have something you are doing with your hand. And here, when the Lord told Isaac not to leave, Isaac did not fold his hands and then now begin to pray and then now begin to kabash and kabash and kabash, thinking that by kabashing there will be. See, there are certain things God will never do for man. That was the time he told me. He said, son, he said, I will not do for a man what a man can do for himself. God will bring revelation. It will be a guide. It will give a prophecy or a guide as to how we should what to do. But there are some certain things you and I must take responsibility for. You must take responsibility for doing something. Bible, you see, in this text now, Isaac, the Bible said, when there was inflation, see, my friend, the way out of inflation, if we were to solve the current economic situation we have in most of these African countries, let most Christians, all assemblies, denomination, let them go into farming. You will be shocked of what will happen. And to the point that average member and even the church, there will be a lot of income for the church. And not only for the church, the people will have more than enough. Now, as consuming nation, we are consuming, we are not planting. We are eating, we are not investing. We are eating, we are not really putting any structure in place to provide our immediate need. How are we going to? Is it God that will not come and then grow rice, grow beans, grow banana, grow like one president said, banana garia and Is it God that will not do that? See, my friend, there is no magic to this. The solution to it is that every one of us, we must learn from Isaac to see, let's go back to farming. Let's do something with our hands. Enough of kabashing. And that's sometimes you see in some places they will gather people Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all throughout the year, praying throughout the year without the people taking up responsibility to do something with their hands. I wonder where we got all this biblical text twisted. That average Christians are not even thinking. Average Christian, they want a good life, just like every other individual. They want the luxuries of life. They want good life, comfortable life, but they are not ready to work. They are not ready to do what will bring money and food on their table. My friend, pray from now till tomorrow. Certain things will not change. What will change? Look at, and that's why when we place an average African church side by side, look at all this. Some of the countries that we claim to be nations, probably we sometimes want to tag as atheist. Look at them. Scientifically, they are inventing every day. Come to think of it, show me African nation that their scientists there are inventing. Show me any African nation that have gone into green revolution, into agriculture, raising cattle, raising camel, having rice plantation, banana plantations, and so many other crops, planting all kinds of crops, and see if there will not be enough and abundant food for the people to eat. We're just like a set of individuals that believe so much in magic. That's why we end up in the hands of some so-called marundas, hirelings, who come into the work of the ministry to deceive the people, trying to make them believe that by praying from January through December, not doing anything, not using the brain the Lord has given them to think of what can they do with their hands, except coming to see. A time will come. Can I just shock us? A time will come that if God should solve some of the major problems that most of us, most reasons why most people are coming to church, a time may likely come that may likely hardly see people come to church. The reason why some individuals today are so disappointed is because we promise them what we're actually supposed to get experts in some certain field to come and address, train them and teach them the dignity of labor and ask them to go back. I think by the current situation now, I think every ministry now, if you are really serious in arresting this issue of inflation in the country, I think by now every ministry should be able to have either acres of farmland where either through technological means they are planting and they are harvesting, because there are improved seedlings that could be planted. And then within a short period, the thing is ready, and then they take to market or even sell to your member at reduced prices. You will discover that by so doing, you will practically regulate the cost of food items within the economy. Once the cost of food items come down, automatically every other thing will be regulated. But sometimes we'll be expecting the government to regulate when we that have the grace and the opportunity, the platform to address people, to encourage people to recognize the dignity of labor, to do something with their hands. We only just want to have some groups of individuals around us that are doing nothing with their life, and yet their time will be going, and at the end of it, their years will be wasted. Beloved, I think it's high time we begin to think about it. This passage says, and Isaac planted. He planted. It was not that Isaac gave money. Isaac planted. When you give money, except probably you give him money to probably invest in something that will yield. So anything outside that, my friend, African nation will continue to be backward, and most likely continue to keep having people around us and in most of our churches that will be hungry, and then we almost and also end up becoming so desperate for way out. And if care is not taken, in the course of their desperation, some of them may likely be pushed towards doing something unethically right. So please, I just want to seize this medium. Let's think about it. Let's go back into